Hey everybody, this is Christopher Brower here with Daily Motor, and today we're driving the 2023 Honda HR-V. This is going to be the first drive of this car, a first impressions video out in Stevenson, Washington. As you can see, there's another one going by right now. We've got a bunch of very identical cars out here, and we are getting to experience this new HR-V for the first time. This is a totally new, fully redesigned from the ground up HR-V. It sits on the same global platform as the new Civic, which is a good thing because that's a car that we love. In fact, it won our Car of the Year in 2021. So everything is looking promising for this new Honda HR-V. I think design-wise, it looks really grown up, just like the new 11th gen Civic. And overall, they've just made this thing look really, really premium, especially in this blue-green color that we have today with these gray wheels. I don't know, call me crazy. I think from the back, this thing kind of looks like a Mercedes GLC. This rear quarter view right here kind of looks like a GLC. I don't know. So what we'll do today is do a brief walk around in and out on this new HR-V, and then we'll go for a little bit of a back road blast. I know that sounds kind of funny in a car like this, but due to the road that we're on right now, we'll be able to have a little bit of fun with this HR-V. So let's start in the rear cargo compartment. We don't have a power lift gate, but honestly, with something in this class, I don't really think you need it. You've got a good amount of room back here with a spare tire underneath the floor. That's something that we don't really see too much anymore. Ooh, sorry for that anti-ASMR there. Little toolkit, and then of course our seats fold down as well. But before we do that, I want to show you this unique design that they've got back here with this new HR-V. They've got all these ridges on all of your touch points that luggage or items or whatever can fly into and hit. And these ridges here that you see on these inner quarter panels are here to make this material last longer, scratch less easy, and hold up to more abuse. So that's really cool. If you're actually using this car to haul things, you've got some strong interior plastics in this HR-V. You can see we've also got it here on the back of the hatch. So we know the Honda HR-V to have some clever seat technology, and it's no different story with this new 2023 model. So as you can see, the back seat here appears to have quite a bit of room. The seat sits up high to make it easy for you to get in and out of, And if you see here, okay, I'll demonstrate with my hand, you can fit your entire arm under here while the seat is in its upright position. However, when you fold it down, watch the bottom of the seat. It goes forwards and down. You can see I can barely get my fingers under it now, to give you more of a flat loading surface, and you can see that from the back here. It's not perfectly flat, but it's better than it would be if that seat didn't go down further into the floor. So kind of a cool design there that helps you with having extra room for cargo in this setting, but also when you have the seat folded up, it makes it easier for you to get in and out of, Okay, so let me close the back here. Anything else back here I need to show? We've got a 12-volt outlet, a couple of tie-down points, but that's about it. Nothing too special back there. You can see more of this grooved material here on our door panels because, of course, when you're getting in and out of the car, sometimes you hit it with your foot. As you can see, I just did right there. And it wipes right off. Okay, anyways. Like the Civic, we have a ton of room in the back of this Honda HR-V. We've got a seat back pocket on the passenger side, a cubby here to hold your phone. No climate control vents or unit or anything back here. It's pretty bare bones, but we've got some nice leather detailing on our rear door panels, as well as some pretty neat stitching designs on these seats. So this is the EXL trim, and it's all-wheel drive. So this is the absolute top of the line model. So keep that in mind as you're watching this. This is about as spec'd as you can go with a new HR-V. Taking a look here at the front, what does this remind you of? I'll give you a second to think about it, and then we'll hop up there and take a closer look. And before we sit up front, let's take a look under the hood of this new HR-V, and we'll talk about the powertrain. So under the hood of every new Honda HR-V, is Honda's 2-liter naturally aspirated 4-cylinder engine. Makes 158 horsepower and 138 foot-pounds of torque. Now this is standard in every HRV, no matter if you get front-wheel drive, all-wheel drive, Sport, EXL, no matter what, this is your powertrain. So this will be the same for all of them. Pretty open and clean engine bay there. Looks fairly easy to work on. I always like when manufacturers plan ahead and, you know, give you some room in there to work on things. So it looks pretty easy. No hood struts here. I am holding this up. There's shut there. What do we think about the front end styling? I've heard some people say they think it looks kind of like a Ford, but I don't know that I really agree with that. It kind of looks like it has like a snout. You can see the front bumper comes a little ways forwards from the hood. So today for tires, we're running on some Hankook Kinergy GT 215/60/17. No real opinion formed on these tires yet. They don't make a whole lot of noise. I've only driven up the road. I haven't driven down it, so we'll have to see how they perform in that setting. And just like the new Civic, it gives you a nice greeting there on the cluster. And speaking of the new Civic, if you didn't say Civic is what this entire dash, steering wheel, whole setup up here reminds you of, well, then you were wrong, because it reminds me quite a bit of the new Civic. Let's start this thing up. So as you'll notice here, we don't have a fully digital cluster. It's about 60/40. Your left-hand side is digital, right-hand side is still analog. In this particular car, we have the optional 9-inch touchscreen, similar to the one that you get on the Civic. Standard, you get a 7-inch screen. It looks the same size this way, like the actual unit is the same size. You just get less screen. Your screen sits further into the middle and it's a little bit smaller. This whole dashboard design, the minimalist vibe of this car is pulled pretty much straight from the Civic. We've got slightly different knobs here though, if you'll notice. The Civic has long and skinny knobs that stick out, and this one has some thin and flat knobs that more just kind of follow the contour of this really long vent. So I don't really know which one I prefer. I honestly think I prefer the ones in the Civic because they feel a little bit more natural in the hands, but these still work pretty nice, and I think this design is really, really premium looking. We've got some soft material here on the dashboard, a little bit of leather stitching. So you've got leather on the front of the dash and then just a hard plastic on the back part of the dash. I've got a couple tweeters here, another speaker up here. Unfortunately, we don't have a Bose audio system yet in the HRV. I don't know if that will come later, but as of right now, only a standard unbranded audio system. And we'll have a more in-depth review of that sound system once we get this car back to the DMHQ. I'm sure Charlie will have a full video on that. So look forward to that. That'll be coming shortly. We've got a sunroof on this car, we've got a tan headliner, and oh, let me show you one more thing from the back seat. So we've got these map lights that are just touch sensitive, and actually if you get close enough to them, you don't even have to touch them and they will turn off. Haha! It's kind of neat. Otherwise up here we do have a volume knob, which is really nice. We have wireless Apple CarPlay, but due to filming purposes today, I will be plugging my phone in to do CarPlay. And as you can see, no service up here in the hills, so hopefully we can find our way back with no problem. So let's talk about this center stack design here. It does look kind of familiar. The last gen HRV had a very similar setup, but this one looks quite a bit more attractive. We've got the shifter from the new Civic here and the new Honda style drive mode selector. We'll go through those. We've got normal, econ, and snow. We don't have an actual sport mode in the HRV. The closest you'll get is the sport setting for the CVT transmission. And since I didn't mention it earlier, yes, every HRV comes with a CVT. There's no option for a traditional automatic or a manual transmission at this time, and I don't really think there ever will be. Center console here, pretty deep and usable. Electronic parking brake, hill descent control, and an auto hold. You've got USB-A ports on each side here for charging, and you've got a USB-A port up here for phone projection, whether that be Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. You've got a manual adjust steering column. And I'm actually going to be murdered at this time. Okay, actually a nice gentleman. He didn't want to hurt me. Anyways, though, on that note, physical climate control panel, as you can see here, we've got heated seats on this EXL trim and really, really nice clicky knobs for our climate control. Cup holders here, and then a storage bin under your center area here, under the console. And really, guys, that's about it. It's a pretty simple yet usable interior design. This infotainment, when you're not on Apple CarPlay, is similar to what we know, if not exactly the same as the one that we know in the Civic. So a pretty nice, usable infotainment system. And otherwise, I don't know, I think it's time to go for a drive. So what do you say we take this thing not out on the Daily Motor Test Route, but on a back road and go for a little bit of a blast? As you can see, it does swivel with the steering wheel. That's it. Into drive we go. Okay, didn't quite make it to 60 miles an hour there. Oh man. So I have to keep reminding myself while I'm up here in the hills that this is not a performance car. It's not a sports car. You know, it's not something like a Civic Si that's just going to totally thrill me up here on these roads, but it still should be sort of fun to drive. So we'll have to come to some sort of verdict on that by the end of this drive. But as for now, as you can see here, you can have your HRV either front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. This is an all-wheel drive car, and on my left side here on my digital cluster, I've got my power split there to show me how much power is going to the front, how much power is going to the rear. However, if you don't like that, you can switch it to be something different. Maintenance interval, safety support, brightness, gauge display setting, warnings, range and fuel. And the most popular one will probably be this one, speed and time, or it'll be range and fuel. That's the pretty standard readout there. However, I am going to leave it on my all-wheel drive torque distribution because I like to be sporty. Now, my favorite part about this car so far is the ride comfort. It's so comfortable, it soaks up all the bumps, and in return, you do get quite a bit of body roll and it's sort of floaty, but in a car like this, I don't really know that that matters too much. I think a lot of people that are going to be buying this car are going to be looking for something comfortable that they can take on long road trips. And I've got to say, the way that this is damped, we've got some new McPherson struts in the front, and we've got a fully new multi-link rear suspension. So this thing is totally different than the last HRV, and it rides quite a lot nicer. It feels more premium behind the wheel as far as that goes. Driver seat comfort and overall seat comfort is pretty nice as well. We've got soft leather and just soft padding underneath these seats too. So really good stuff there as far as just luxurious feel goes in here with ride and seat comfort. We'll give this gentleman a little bit of distance here in his Ford Ranger, and then we will send it a little bit more. But in the meantime, let's stop and we'll do a 0 to 60. We're going to go from D to S, our sportiest setting, and we'll turn traction control off just to see how this thing gets off the line. So there's 60 miles per hour. It's a very delayed takeoff. You've got a lot of travel in that throttle pedal before it gives you anything. Even when you're in sport mode, I feel like I would really like to see an actual sport driving mode just to give you a little more feel with that accelerator pedal, because you got to really, really dive into it to be able to feel anything. Otherwise, though, I mean, it feels like it's got 158 horsepower. It's pretty slow, guys. I'm just going to be very, very honest with you. I would like to see some sort of turbo powertrain offered. It'd be nice if they would give us the 180 horsepower 1.5 turbo out of the Civic. That would be nice to see in this setting because, of course, this car is a little bit heavier than the Civic, and it's all-wheel drive. So lots of things that could benefit from the 1.5 turbo. But as for right now, we're limited to just that 2-liter NA. I don't know if they'll introduce a different powertrain in the future, but as for now, all 3 trim levels are available only with this one powertrain. The CVT, you know, I usually don't really love CVTs, but this one is all right. I think that the CVT has some to do with this really numb throttle response that we get in this car, but otherwise it's not the worst CVT that I've ever driven, and it gives you a sense sometimes of some fake gear changes that don't feel super fake, so that is nice. 138 foot-pounds of torque. You know, honestly, the CVT may benefit this car in just allowing you to be able to be at any rev at any time to just get the most out of this little tiny naturally aspirated powertrain. All right, well, while we're on this straight section, let's do a brake test and see how these brakes feel. We'll go from 45 miles an hour to 0 on the brakes. All right, here we go. All right, pretty solid feeling brakes and decent grip as well from those hand-cooked tires. Pretty decent initial bite as well, so no real complaints there with the brake pedal feel. Let's go back into normal drive and let's try out eco mode and see how that behaves. Really where this car is going to be most at home is just cruising at 55 miles per hour or cruising on the highway. So we're getting the real world experience here now. Curious to see what sort of MPGs this will get in a real world setting as well. Don't worry guys, we'll have many more videos on this HRV if you are interested. We'll have a more in-depth test drive review of the car, we'll have a sound system test, and we'll have a real world fuel economy test on this HRV. So we'll have all of the other things once we've spent a bit more time behind the wheel of this car. But as for now, just a very short first impressions drive. It's interesting, these hand cooks like don't make any noise when you go around a corner quickly. They just accept the abuse and don't squeal. I've caught up our friend in the Ford effing Ranger again. Well, what else? Steering feel, super light. Very, very light steering. Not super communicative, but it's communicative enough for the Honda HRV. If this steering was in the Civic or the Civic Si, I'd be disappointed. But I think in this setting, it just makes sense. It's a super light rack. It's almost Volvo light, which is a nice thing. I don't really like SUVs like this that have heavy steering, so it's nice to be in one with a light feel. Powertrain quietness seems to be really nice as well. We've got a little bit of road noise from these tires, and I don't know if that has to do with anything else. Hand-cooked tires in general are usually not my favorite thing in the world, so we'll just blame it on the tires for today. I will say though, even though this isn't the most quiet car in the world, it's certainly quieter on the road than the Civic, so that's a nice thing. The Civic is kind of loud going down the road, and this solves, I'd say, about 30% of that, so 30% quieter than the Civic. And just cruising like a normal person, it's a really nice ride. I mean, just touching again on just how comfortable this car is and how usable and dailyable and the usable rear space and everything. It's pretty nice. Okay, so with all that out of the way, let's talk about pricing and trim. So you've got your base model car that starts at 23 grand. It's going to be a front wheel drive only car. So the cheapest you can get an HRV is 23,000. You've got the sport model, which sits right in the middle, about 26, 27 grand. And then you've got this EXL, which is the top of the line. This EXL all-wheel drive before destination is just under 30 grand. It's about 29, and with destination, it's just over at like 30,250 or something around there. So a pretty fair price. I mean, if you figure this thing is like fully loaded and it's only about 30 grand. And that makes sense for a lot of people that are shopping in this class. And if you want to have a base model car with cloth seats and front wheel drive, then you can do that and you can be even more fuel efficient. So I think overall, a pretty decent little package, really nice grown-up design language, a more premium feel than the last HRV, the old HRV. Well, to be honest with you, I hated it. I thought it was dreadful, and this is quite a bit better in every way. I do wish we could have gotten a little bit more power with this powertrain, a little bit more horsepower, a little bit more torque, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see if they end up giving us a higher powered powertrain in the future. That's really all I would like to see with this car. Otherwise though, not so bad. Honda HR-V. If they keep going in the same direction that they have with the new Civic and this new HR-V, I will be very pleased. Let's just pull over here and wrap this first drive up. And then we will call it good. And again, I want to reiterate that we will have a more in-depth review on this HR-V. This is just a first impressions drive. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this new Honda HR-V. And I'm looking forward to spending more time with this car and getting some better, more well thought out driving impressions. But as for now, that'll end it for us today. Thank you guys all so much for watching. This has been Christopher Brower here with Daily Motor. And as always, drive on.